Hello friends, welcome to Learning Unlimited. You all are requested to subscribe the channel and like my video. Today we are going to discuss about Industrial Relations Code. What are the key changes which is been included in this code? Let us discuss that. First of all, the definition of worker will be based on the basis of wages which is being drawn by him, and workers or employees with salary up to 18,000 will fall under the category of worker. Now there is no differentiation about workers and employees pronunciation. Now what other changes is that fixed term employment. Now employer can keep fixed term employees for specific duration and retrenchment compensation not to be paid. Those fixed term employee will be entitled same salary or social security as regular employee. Employee, can an industrial raise his dispute with the employer within the time limit of every 2 years instead of 3 years. Trade union have to give notice of 14 days before going on strike. Establishment with less than 300 workmen can lay off, retrench and close without government approval. Either just earlier that limit was 100 employees. Number of members in the grievance redressal committee has been increased from 6 to 10. Definition of appropriate government has been modified by including the establishment of contractors. Thus, contractor appropriate government shall be of the establishment where the contract labor has been deployed. Some more changes in the code is that the appropriate government shall set up an uh, reskilling fund, and the fund shall consist of contribution by the employer equal to 15 days wages last drawn by the workers immediately before the retrenchment. The fund shall be utilized by crediting 15 days wages last drawn by the workers to his account who is retrenched within 45 days of such retrenchment in such manner as may be prescribed. Definition of employee has been added in the code. The term employee has been used invariably with the term worker, with employee, a worker, or employee and worker, with a view to ensure that there is no discrimination in the applicability of labor law to the employee or worker or employee. Definition of employer has been completely modified under section 2 subsection M as per the new definition of employer means it includes head of department, occupier of the factory, manager of the factory under the clause F of subsection 1 of section 7 of Factory Act, the person who or the authority which has ultimate control over the affairs of the establishment and where the said affairs are entrusted to the manager or managing director or such manager or managing director and contractor and legal representative of a deceased employer. Some more changes are fixed term employment has been incorporated, which is major changes introduced in the code. The code provides that the fixed term employee will get all statutory benefit like ESI, EPF, bonus, wages, etc. at par with regular employees, which are doing work of the same or similar kind of nature. The termination of the service of the worker as a result of completion of the tenure of fixed term employment would not be a retrenchment. It will not treated as a retrenchment. The employee would be eligible for a gratuity if he renders service under the contract for a period of 1 year. The definition of industry has been modified and provides that any systematic activity carried on by the cooperation between employer and his workers, whether such workers are employed by such employer directly or by or through any other agency, it includes a contractor also, The definition has specifically excluded institutions owned or managed by the organization, wholly or substantially engaged in the charitable, social, or philanthropic services, sovereign functions, domestic services. Now, I will discuss more about the industrial dispute and its definition. The definition of industrial dispute has been modified to include a dispute arising out of discharge, dismissal, retrenchment, and termination of such workers. Metro railways has been included in the definition of railways. Maximum number of members in the grievance redressal committee has been increased from 6 to 10 in an industrial establishment employing 20 or more workers. Some more changes: negotiating union or negotiating council has been inserted in the definition. The trade union dispute has been added, which provides dispute related to trade union arising between two or more trade unions or between the members of the trade union inter se. Definition of wages has been revised. The first part of the definition of wages includes all salary component expressed in terms of money are capable of being so expressed, like basic salary, all reimbursements, all allowances, all benefits. Second part of definition provides specific exclusion like bonus payable under any law, conveyance allowance, house rent allowance, overtime allowance, house accommodation, supply of light water, medical attendance, other amenities, service excluded by a general or special order of the appropriate government, commission contribution to the provident fund or pension, any sum paid to defray special expenses, gratuity, retrenchment compensation, remuneration payable under any award or settlement between the parties. These are all are the exclusion in the definition of wages. Now, third part of this definition includes, it provides that the total excluded component should not exceed 50% of total remuneration. Means if the exclusion is more than 50%, it is not considerable. It should not exceed 50% of the total remuneration. The third part of the definition provide limit, as the definition very clearly specifies the list of exclusions, so anything which is paid to the employees other than the exclusion would be covered, and within this specific exclusion the limit cannot be more than 50%. Some more changes, like a new feature of recognition of negotiating union has been introduced. The code provides for a negotiation union in an industrial establishment having registered trade union for the negotiating with the employer. If there is only one trade union in an industrial establishment, the employer is required to recognize such trade union as the sole negotiating union of the worker. In case of multiple trade unions, the trade union with support of at least 51% of workers on the muster roll of that establishment will be recognized as the sole negotiating union by the employer. The provision of standing order on industrial establishment will be applicable having 300 or more than 300 workers as notified by appropriate government. The code prohibits the strikes or lockdown in any establishment unless a prior notice of 14 days is provided. Similar provisions existed in the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 for public utility services such as railways and airlines. The code expands these provisions to apply all the industrial establishments. This will impact the ability of workers to strike and employer to lock out. Now, an industrial dispute can be voluntarily referred to arbitration by the employer as well as by the workers. The parties to the dispute are required to execute a written agreement referring the dispute to the arbitrator. Some more changes, like the workers may approach the industrial tribunal for adjudication of the dispute related to dismissal, retrenchment, termination within 45 days after the application for the conciliation of the dispute was made. Employer of industrial establishments such as mines, factories, plantation with at least 300 workers are mandatorily required to take prior permission of the central or state government before layoff, retrenchment or closure. A fine of rupees 1 lakh which may extend to rupees 10 lakh is leviable on any person who contravenes this provision. In case any workers is suspended by the employer pending investigation or pending inquiry, the amount of subsistence allowance payable at 50% of the wages for the first 90 days of suspension and at the rate of 75% of such wages for the remaining period of the suspension. Dear friends, about this industrial relation code. Thank you for watching the video. Please do subscribe the channel and like the video, and please press on bell icon. Thank you.